Hello and welcome to Lexitecture, a podcast about word origins and histories. My name is Ryan, and in each episode my friend Amy and I bring a new pair of words to share their stories with each other and you. You can find our past episodes and the occasional blog post on our website at lexitecture.com. Follow along with us on Twitter and Facebook at Lexitecture, and if you really like what we do, you can support the show at patreon.com/lexitecture. Today's episode, Blackmail Juggernaut.
Do you
You're
want to go
squished
first?
for
Will I
time.
go first?
Let's word. Do you want to start? You go first.
Yeah, cool. Okay, the last couple of words that we've talked about, we've done a lot of chatting about compound words, especially
Yes.
compound words that we didn't really think were compound words. And
Ooh.
this one, I kind of stumbled across this word by accident. I was trying to find a word, and I was a little bit stuck. And I got really interested in two separate words, both of which, like, I don't know what your process is, but usually I'll be like, that word's cool, and I'll start to look it up in the usual places that I look it up. And I'll decide fairly quickly, this is interesting enough to pursue, this is not interesting enough to pursue.
Right, yeah.
And then usually at that point, what I will next do is I will check on the website that we haven't already talked about it.
Yeah, that's a common.
Because,
I feel like for me,
I'm an old
process is a bit strong, but that's a common occurrence for me. Yeah.
so, like, there's been a lot of words, like 200-ish.
We've done a lot of
More
words.
than that, like, vaguely speaking. So, and I don't, like, what I find interesting about that is I don't know if I remember the words that I've done more or less than the words that you've done.
Yeah, that's a weird phenomenon because that's definitely, yeah.
Yeah, like, I guess as a fairly self-absorbed sort of human being, the assumption would be that I remember my words. But very often, like, you'll go to the website and there'll be there's an index by word.
Yeah.
And I'll look up the word, and sometimes I'll even click on the word to be like, and at that point you get the episode title of, the two words. A lot of the time I'm like, which one was mine?
Yeah.
Like,
100%.
So I had two occasions of looking and finding that, in fact, those words had been discussed already. So I was a little bit like, oh, shit. The first word was vegetable, and
Yep.
the second was etymology. Now, as it turned out, both of those were your words. One was in a grab bag, and the other one was just in an episode, I think.
I thought you did etymology.
I wouldn't swear to it.
Oh, me neither.
Anyway,
Okay,
so
doesn't matter. Yep.
I got to that whole I love lamp
Yep.
sort of part of the process. And yesterday at work, I won't tell you the story because it's supremely, I work in an office, boring.
Right.
I had to spend a lot of time looking at an email program. Okay.
Okay.
That's all I'm willing to say about that at this point.
Fair.
It was a whole day of looking at this email, looking at a problem in this email program, right?
Right.
And I was like, oh, mail. That's a fairly interesting word. Is it? I wonder. I'll have a look.
Could be.
And, well, mail was but my gateway word, because what I discovered, that the first thing that made me go, was in fact the word blackmail.
Oh, I like it.
And blackmail is the word I'm going to talk to you about today. Now, of course, I'm going to talk about mail as I talk about blackmail, but
Yeah, of course.
blackmail.
It's
So,
more fun.
Here's the interesting thing. Well, here's one of the interesting things about this word.
Okay.
To the OED, I shouted, at least in my head. And I discovered a few very interesting things from the meaning and use section of the word.
You did it out loud
So-
and you know it. You're not fooling anyone.
I mean, sometimes I don't even know the difference, Ryan.
Fair. Okay.
The poor woman who has recently started sharing an office with me, she's realising that, like, hard roundabout now. She very often works with headphones on. I'm not offended. But also she very often takes her headphones off to go, what? Sorry? And I'm like, no. That was entirely my nonsense. Please ignore. Anyway. So here's the thing about looking up blackmail in the OED. The first entry, first citation, is from 1852.
Oh.
Remember that. That's
Okay.
going to become important in a minute.
Okay, 1852.
And the meaning given by the OED is, it's a verb, transitive, originally to extort money from a person, etc., by intimidation, by the unscrupulous use of an official or social position, or of political influence or vote. Now, chiefly, to extort money from by threatening to reveal a damaging or incriminating secret, also to use threats or moral pressure against. Okay?
Right.
And
Okay.
it's originally, again, looking at the OED entry, it says originally US. And
Okay.
this 1852 citation is from documents of the Assembly State New York, 75th Session, Volume 3, 78, by R. Ennis.
Lovely
Okay.
beach read.
I had said to Goodrich that if he suffered himself to be pretty well blackmailed, I supposed he might get the contract. Okay? And the meaning of the word, as stated here in this OED entry, has stayed pretty stable. So the most recent entry, the most recent citation is 2005. Okay? You want me to blackmail the most popular rapper on the planet. And that's pretty cool. I like when words don't change. It's interesting
Yeah.
when they do. But I like it when it's like, this word's good enough, stable, set,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, there's something cool to that.
And so I carried on my merry way, investigating a little bit more about this word. And I had a look at the etymology. And of course, we get blackmail noun. That's our other place to go. Oh, motherfucker, my OED login thing has run out. Hold on a second. Does that mean all these fucking tabs no longer do anything?
No. Once you log back in on the one tab, the rest of them should just still function.
I'm assuming you're going to edit that out, but I don't know. I don't even know if you do that, Ryan, to be honest.
I sometimes do. I might leave that one in because it's fun. A little peep behind the curtain. Pay
How
no
much-
attention to the men podcasters
How much of an
behind the
arsehole
curtain.
do you want me to look?
Only time will tell.
Only time will tell. Okay. Oh, I'm such an idiot. Because why would I not have looked at blackmail noun first? My interesting thing is no longer interesting. We might have to start this whole shit over again. Oh my god, such an arsehole. Because
Okay.
blackmail verb, originally US, 1852.
Right.
Blackmail noun, 1530.
Sorry, what?
1530.
It took 320 years to verbify that noun?
Well, the noun carried on being nouned. The latest citation is 2006, but yeah, it took 300 years to verb that noun. There or thereabouts.
Am I nuts? Is that wild? That seems wild.
Well, it's wild because the words don't have the same meaning.
Sorry, what?
So the 1530 usage is now a historical usage because the noun blackmail, first cited in the OED in 1530, was a tribute levied on farmers in Scotland and the border counties of England by freebooting Scottish chiefs in return for protection or immunity from plunder. Blackmail was originally protection money.
Oh.
So we have Adam Scot of Tushielaw, convicted of art and part of theftuously taking blackmail from John Brown of Hoprow. And that's from the Criminal Trials in Scotland, 1833, by R. Pitcairn.
Okay, so the blackmail
And-
was the money. Was the,
Yes,
the payment money.
it was the tribute itself.
Right, okay.
So, yeah, 300 years to
What
verb
the-
that noun.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And I was very confused about this because Etym Online, which is another place that I always look at when I'm, when I'm wording,
Yeah, of course.
I found that clearly this word had been around for much longer than 1852.
Right.
Fuck me, now the links aren't working. Jesus! Okay, sorry. And breathe.
Hello?
And this is the point where I went, because the tribute paid to men... Oh, shitting fuck. Hello?
Hi.
It's all fucking going on, isn't it?
I thought I genuinely was starting to get slightly worried that something
That's
had
exactly what I thought.
witnessed some sort of horrific accident, because all I heard was you saying "fuck me" and then it got cut off and then there was just silence. I was like, did your house
I
just
hope
fall
you
into
don't-
a hole?
I hope you don't have some sort of like profanity cut-off mechanism on your Zoom, or this is going to be a
mean-
really frustrating call.
I feel like we would have found that out pretty quick.
Oh, what, you're using it in Scottish mode?
I have it set to prude. Let me set it back over to Scots.
I mean, there's a lot of shades in between those two places, let's face it.
Oh, they're opposite ends of a spectrum.
Oh, what a bin fire of a words already.
Okay, so I didn't hear anything after your expletive and then when your house fell into a void. So what happened? Where did you go?
So funny. So I went to Etim Online, and then I was trying to click on a link and it wasn't working. And then I realised that the reason it wasn't working was because I was clicking on the link for the page that I was already on. And just generally, it's all fucking going on.
I'm leaving all of this
wow.
in.
I hate you. I had a Zoom call. Well, it was a Google Meet call at work this week that I have to say, generally speaking, was about as professional and held together as this one has been.
Nice.
Just absolute bin fire. Anyway. So, Blackmail noun, 1550s. Tribute paid to men allied with criminals as protection from pillage, etc.
Right.
And the black part, quite simply, is black as in bad, evil, no good.
Okay.
And the kind of connotations of black as a bad thing, I mean, that's a whole thesis by itself. But black was where I didn't start off looking at black, but that's where we're going to start talking about it. Because black, which is early Old English, is the earliest OED citation. Black has meant black for a long, long time.
Yeah.
It's from a translation of the Ecclesiastical History by Bede. And he heft a black face and black ondwitlan. I have no idea what that means, but doesn't it sound cool?
It does sound cool.
And of the darkest colour possible, that of soot, coal, the sky on a moonless night in open country, or a small hole in a hollow object designating this colour, or so near this as to have no recognisable colour, very dark. Which I thought was a really beautiful lyrical definition.
That is. That's great.
The OED is often very matter-of-fact, straightforward, but this is quite lovely. And the etymology of black is interesting by itself.
Okay.
Etim Online is very, very happy to say that it comes from a pirate. And off I went to the University of Texas at Austin, Pokorny Index and Etimon, where they don't agree.
Oh.
Basically. So Etim Online says that it comes from a pirate, and the pirate it's rendered BHLEG, Bleg. And that pirate is defined as, it means to burn, gleam, shine, or flash. And
Okay.
the kind of theorising with that Etim Online has is that to shine, to flash, or to burn all kind of come from that single root. So from bell and bleg we get black.
Right. Okay.
However, the Pokorny Index at University of Texas at Austin only has this pi root, meaning shining white, flashing. So there does seem to be a little bit of disagreement here about this. And the Pokorny Index doesn't list black as one of the cognates of that root. So I guess it's one of these places where you go, interesting, cool, okay. Don't know. Without my my handy etymological time machine, I'm afraid I can't say one way or the other. There's also, Etymon mentions the usual Old English word for black was swert, as in swart, as in Schwarz, the German word. And that can be traced back to a PIE root, a completely different PIE root that has absolutely nothing to do with the formation of the word black. So it's a bit of an unusual one, but
Yeah.
oh God, you are still there. I had a sudden moment of Ryan hasn't said anything for a while. Have I fallen into a hole again?
No, I'm just trying, just trying to keep
Just
up.
actually listening.
Yeah.
So yeah, so the black part, the word as old as dirt. Black things and burned things, burned things go black. You
Yeah.
can see how that kind of route through the etymology of the word might have come about, but there does seem to be a bit of disagreement here. So that the OED says it's cognate with all sorts of Germanic words, black with a C, with a K, in Middle Dutch, Old Saxon, Old High German, Middle High German. There are lots of words that clearly have the same, they're of the same family. But it does mention, it says it could be from a base rated to the Germanic bases of blank and the various forms discussed at blick. But since this would give an expected meaning of shining and white, there is an obvious semantic difficulty. Many have sought to resolve this by hypothesizing that the word meaning black originated as a past participle with the meaning burnt, blackened, of a verb meaning to burn brightly, derived from the space. This verb may perhaps be reflected by Middle Dutch blacken, to flame or to burn. But it does seem to be a little bit, there's definitely a happening at some point in this situation.
That's
so yeah. Black is old and contested.
right.
It might also interest you to know, Ryan, before we get on to mail, that there are other words of a similar formation. There is, for example, silver mail. Silver mail is rent paid in money, and I mean you'll probably like silver mail, but you'll like the next one better.
I do like silver
The next
mail.
one is buttock mail.
I'm sorry, what?
And buttock mail, first
I
cited
thought for
in the
sure
OED,
you said buttock mail.
first cited 1552, is a fine imposed by an ecclesiastical court as a punishment for sexual intercourse outside of marriage. And as a Scottish colloquial obsolete word, I immediately think, come on, man, surely buttock mail needs to have its day. But the last citation is from 1814, so, I mean, obsolete, but not wildly obsolete.
No.
But yeah, buttock mail.
That is wild.
Yeah, so this takes me on to the meat in the sandwich, if you will, of the word mail.
Yeah.
So before I get started on this, Ryan, if you looked up the word mail in the Oxford English Dictionary, how many entries would you expect to see?
Weirdly, I think it would be, let's see, holistic answer. I would expect not many, but then sort of half expect to be surprised. But it's either a very few or a ridiculous ton.
Right. That's
But I would
exactly
go with
what
very
I thought
few.
you would say. Very few or a ridiculous ton. 19.
That's in ridiculous ton territory.
It's in ridiculous ton territory. It's most certainly is. 19. Now,
Wow.
that of course takes into account noun and verb forms.
Right.
Unlike me at the start of this episode. And nouns, we've got, let me just check, 5.
Okay.
And yeah, five distinct versions. And verb, we've got 5 distinct versions. So, I assumed that the mail, as in email, which was where I started this journey, And the mail in blackmail, I assumed that they meant the same thing. But I was
Yeah.
wrong. So,
it's one of
interestingly
them-
too... Oh, crack on.
Nope. 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 I'm not going to get ahead of myself. You go ahead. Nope. 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 But I want to.
You're showing ridiculous restraint. Again, something that I don't usually do. So, would it interest you to hear that the second... So usually, if you're not familiar with the OED, when they have noun 1, noun 2, noun 3, noun 4, what they're usually looking at is which is the oldest.
Yes.
And which is the most commonly used. It isn't, that's of secondary importance. Which has got the oldest citation tends to be how the numbers work. So male noun 2 is from circa 1275. Okay?
Okay.
And male noun 1 is Old English. So just like black, just as old as that word.
Whoa.
And in fact, this is the one that gives us the blackmail mail. Because mail was originally a payment, a tax, a tribute, or rent. Okay?
Interesting. Okay.
And this is, of course, the mail of blackmail. In Old English, it also meant an agreement or a deal and the rents of an estate. Okay?
Okay.
And Edward Singslod Extha of Mail, Anglo-Saxon Chronicle. Another one of these, I love saying these words, but I have no idea what they mean.
Yeah, exactly.
And again, we get, so borough mail, grass mail, land mail. These are all words like blackmail. So the rent that you pay or the tribute that you pay for your land.
Yeah.
The rent that you pay for your harvest, I presume. And latest citation is 1969 from the French Lieutenant's Woman, the wonderful John Fowles novel. If one cherished one's crops or one's daughter's virginity, one paid mail to the neighbourhood chieftains. So the mail here is the tax or the rent.
Yeah.
And
okay.
it has a figurative usage to pay the mail, as in to pay the penalty or to pay your rent. And the cool thing about that particular usage is that it has a completely separate etymology to the second sense of mail.
Oh, I do like when that happens.
I love when that happens. So we have rent or payment from Old English mail.
Okay.
So the rent, the tribute part, this is from Old English mail, a lawsuit or terms or bargaining or agreements, just as the OED said. And this comes to us through a range of Germanic words that all describe meeting or talking. So we have methil, meeting, mail, speech, mod, to meet or assemble. And
Okay.
meet comes from a PIE root that, it has the same meaning. So
Yeah.
to come together, to discuss, to meet. And this gives us lovely cognates in English. It gives us blackmail. And of course, because we know that the Picorni Index guys love a bit of Tolkien,
Yeah.
we've got the Ent-moot, where the Ents all get together in The Lord of the Rings.
Oh, of course, a moot, yeah.
A folk moot, yeah. And a gemot, which was an Anglo-Saxon judicial or legislative assembly, coming into the presence of meeting, the Shire moot, the Waymeet, more Lord of the Rings ones. And I love this word so much, a wittenagamot, which is a council of the wise. And
That's
those are
very
just Middle English Lego words, witten, wit or wisdom, and gemot, meeting.
That's very cool.
So we get all these lovely cognates from the PIE root mod, which means to meet or to approach. And I guess to pay your rent, you meet. There's some kind of council meeting, getting together. No bank transfers, no direct debits, unfortunately. I guess you had to go and see your landlord, whether you liked him or not.
Right, yeah.
So thank goodness that thing doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah, no way. Okay.
And And I started to think, it's kind of interesting that mail, as in email or putting something in the mailbox, doesn't come from that root, because it's almost like a figurative meeting. Like, I couldn't meet you in person, but here are some words that I've sent you. Here is a message. And I guess you could very easily assume that mail comes from meat in that sense. Are
Yeah.
you still there? You are?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Am I just going to be saying that all the way through this episode? Probably.
We're all on edge now.
Yeah, so much pressure. But in fact, that's not the case.
Okay.
There's a completely different pi root behind the old noun 2. Because noun 2 is a bag, a pack, or a wallet, a travelling bag, or a portmanteau. Or
Okay.
it's something likened to a bag, like the stomach or the belly.
Okay.
Or it is a bag or packet of letters or dispatches for conveyance by post. That's sense 2A of noun 2 in the OED. So again, historically, we've got the bag or the pack first. We've got the figurative use of likening things to that bag. And then we have the kind of, the sort of evolution of what the bag is being used for. So it's a very kind of stable, predictable way of looking at how the sense of a word changes. We've seen it before lots and lots of times.
Yeah.
And it makes such good sense.
Is there an
So
indication
sense
that
3
that the bag sense came from the meeting or gathering together?
Well, you'd think that, wouldn't you?
I would. I do. I did.
Well, the etymology would seem to disagree.
Okay.
So the OED entry goes on, sense 3 is a person, vehicle or train that carries the mail or postal bag. And then 4, of course, we get the computing sense, email, which was, what took me, what got me on this train in the first place.
Yeah.
And so 1654 is the first time that we see mail used in the sense that we would kind of understand it today.
Right.
To have in readiness one good horse or mare to receive and carry the mail of letters, that no other person besides the post that carrieth the mail be suffered to ride post with the mail. So they're talking about the bag, the thing that you carry.
Right.
And the thing that you carry, mail, has got a completely different pi root.
Okay.
That pi root, post or letters, a travelling sack for keeping articles of personal property. We have Old French, mail, meaning wallet, bag or bundle, from Frankish, malha, or some other Germanic source, from Proto-Germanic, malho, source also of Old High German, malaha, a wallet or a bag, all the way back to pi, molko, M-O-L-K-O, a pi root which means, you're not going to believe it, it means skin, pouch, or bag. So, speaking of words where the meaning
Okay.
doesn't change,
Yeah.
we've got one here. And the only English cognate from this pi root is male. And the West Germanic, North Germanic, Italic and Hellenic versions that I just talked about from the Etym Online version, these are the only ones listed. So it's interesting. Usually when you go to the Etymon entry, you find that there are tons and tons and tons of cognates and reflexes. But there's a very, very small amount here. And, they're all male and they all mean bag or they mean mail, as in the things that you post, the letters or the messages themselves. So giving your landlord a bag of cash versus meeting your landlord to give him the rent that you are due them. And of course, it's an evil landlord. This is not a legal above board transaction. It's a
Right.
dodgy, evil, blackened transaction. Is how we get to blackmail. The bag, of course, unfortunately, because I love a good bag, the bag is entirely irrelevant. The blackmail is about that bad rent that you have to pay.
Right.
But at least you're not having to pay it for your buttocks.
At least. That's why. Okay, so the thing that I had an interesting moment because we talked earlier, you know, you were asking about process. And again, strong word for what we do here. But one of the more common ways that I end up coming to a word to do is when there's two completely disparate meanings of that word. And I simply have to know if it's what the heck is going on. Like, and so it's slightly surprising that I haven't done mail already, because as soon as you, like, so when you were saying the number of entries in the OED, and I was like, I think there'd be few, because I could only immediately think of one, and it was just the mail. Like, just, I couldn't think of any other uses of mail.
I didn't even get into some of the others. You know,
Well,
I could very easily, there's tons.
While I was doing that, what made me kind of gasp and interrupt was I suddenly and immediately thought of another one, and then immediately became like desperately curious as to how they were related. And that's like chainmail.
Interesting. So I can tell you about this one.
I was hoping
because I just forgot to talk about it a minute ago.
Is it like the skin pouch thing? It's like a protective pouch for people?
Totally different etymology again.
Egad. Okay.
You're like, what? So the mail, as in chainmail,
yeah,
is from an old French word maille, M-A-I-L-L-E, which the mechanism, the kind of pathway, not hugely clear, but it in several places, this is written, you know, it's written down as, accept it, Amy, this is fact. It comes from the Latin word macula. Now, you've maybe heard this word before in English, as in macular degeneration.
Right, yes.
So macular degeneration is an eye condition. And so I didn't really know anything about that. I just sort of assumed that the macula is something or other in your eye and it degenerates and that's bad.
Mm-hmm.
But macula actually means a spot, a speck or a stain. And particularly a disfiguring spot or stain or like a blemish.
Right, hence immaculate being without blemish or stain,
without
or whatever.
Stain.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But also, and this is given as a transferred sense of the word, it was used to mean a mesh in a net, or a cell in a network, or a hole in a web.
Oh.
So, you know, like if you were to lay out a mesh,
yeah,
you could almost say, like, am I looking at a series of holes, or am I looking at the thing that holds the holes together? You know, it's one of those, is it a candlestick, is it two faces kind of moments. And
it's
in medieval Latin,
that cool thing where if you take a net and you tear a hole in it, you've actually created fewer holes than more.
Yeah.
Now that net has fewer holes than it did before, which is
also
very
you've
cool.
broken it. Like, you've made it bad by giving it fewer holes.
But I gave it less holes than before. Sorry, go on.
But in medieval Latin, a cell in a coat of mail was a macula, which eventually came to be mail.
Got it.
So chainmail is, and in fact, in medieval Latin, that the word was also used for a link in a chain. So you can see how chainmail and mail became to be this, you know, be the same thing.
Right.
A mail coat. Not just because people didn't want to say chainmail, but because they were almost the same word anyway.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah, and very, very particularly like the part of the net where the cells join together.
Right. Okay.
That's one of the mail senses. I can run. So, I'll run through them in no particular order. We've got the letters and packages part. Which I spoke about a minute ago. We've got the armour composed of interlaced rings or chainwork.
Okay.
We've got falconry, to wrap up a hawk.
Ooh.
Then we've got the verb to send by post. We've got to clothe or arm with, like, as in to encase something in mail.
Right, yeah.
We've got the rent, as in blackmail. And again, the Old English payment, tax, tribute or rent. Then we have a mail was a small coin. Then we've got the game of Pall Mall. We've got male as a variant of male as in gender, and male as a variant of mile. Then we've got male, a variant of meal, the edible part of a grain or pulse.
Okay.
Or a customary or social occasion of taking food. So again, a variant of meal.
Right.
Then we've got male as in a variant of mole, which, like male, the chainmail, means a spot or blemish on the skin. So a little bit of crossover going on there.
Yeah.
We've got male, a variant of mell, M-E-L-L, a heavy hammer or beetle of metal or wood.
Right.
We've got male, a variant of male, M-E-I-L, a measure of weight. Male, variant of moil, M-O-I-L, a hornless cow. And male, variant of mel, to strike or beat with a mallet. So it's a little word that's doing a lot of lifting.
Yeah, no kidding. Wow.
And I love how, like, for meal, for mole, for mel, for male, for mol, everyone's like, sod it, we'll just say male. It's all good.
Yeah. Just
the little
pick
word
one.
that could.
Well, that's very cool. I enjoyed
So
that a
yeah,
lot.
it was another one of these where I was like, is my word male, is my word blackmail? I'm like, no, my word is definitely blackmail.
Yeah, 100%.
Because otherwise I don't get to talk about buttock mail, and that would be no fun.
Yeah. The world would be a worse place.
Yeah.
That's very
And you
cool.
know, I'm not up for making the world a worse place as far as I possibly can manage.
If we can manage it at all. Yeah. Interesting. That's neat. I like that a lot. Okay, so my word, this one doesn't have many meanings, but it still had more than I thought, because I thought
you sound so sad. Meanings aren't everything, Ryan.
That's true. I was still slightly surprised because I thought it just had one. So my word is juggernaut.
Ooh.
Right?
I love this because...
Do you know this already?
I've researched this word, and I cannot, for the life of me, think why.
Oh, that's
the obvious answer would be that it would be for this podcast, but that's not. I haven't talked about it.
No.
Or at least if I have, I can't remember.
I don't know that you have.
Proceed.
Okay. So this may be very boring to you, because a lot of these involve like twists that I found very twisty because I had never thought of it before, but we'll find out.
How rude, Ryan. You're not boring. Even if you're telling me a thing I already know. I will not be bored by you.
So, well, that's good. So my only internal definition of juggernaut was sort of any, either real or metaphysical, but like an unstoppable force or object, some sort of irresistible, powerful thing.
You didn't just go straight to X-Man?
I went straight to X-Men. Yeah. We know which roles you and I occupy on the cultural scale of things. And comics are sort of more my bag.
Comics are sort of more your bag. But thanks to the wonderful work of those nice studio systems, you know, I was at least able to ask that question.
You sure were. That was good. So yeah, that's the only one that I knew of. It's the only context I've ever heard the word used in. I'm not sure if that's the same for you, but you may already know these from other sources. But that's my only experience with the word juggernaut is in that usage. When I looked it up, and so I looked it up in the OED, and then I looked it up just on dictionary.com, just to give me a basic thing. And so there are 3 definitions on dictionary.com for juggernaut. The first is a large, overwhelming force / thing. Check.
Yeah.
That's where I live.
Done.
2, a thing requiring blind devotion or cruel sacrifice.
Oh.
Which I had never even thought of before. And 3...
Maybe I am thinking of a different word. I don't know. Anyway, do continue. That's not what I was expecting.
3, chiefly British, a large, heavy vehicle, especially a truck.
That one I did know.
Okay. So, and I saw that and I thought, I bet she probably knows that one. Amy is, after all, I wouldn't say chiefly British, but British. Is that fair?
How how much negotiation is allowed?
Is it fair to say not chiefly, but British?
Yeah, I think that is entirely accurate.
Okay,
yeah,
good.
I'll give you that.
Good stuff. Okay.
If there is the option on a form to write Scottish or British, I will choose Scottish.
Oh, I know which one. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
It depends on how zoomed out you want to get.
Yeah.
Weirdly, the OED does not have my definition of Juggernaut at all.
Oh.
The overwhelming irresistible force one is just not there.
That's very unexpected.
I think it's because they just haven't got around to updating this one yet, because it's not an overly common. They have things to do. They're busy people, but I have to believe that it is because they haven't got around to it yet. Because I do tend to think that it's probably the, if not the only, at least the most widely used, at least in North America, sense of Juggernaut, other than just the proper noun for the X-Men villain. But when I looked into this, so in the OED online, you can take a look at what the previous definition, the previous edition entry for that word was.
Yeah, we love this shit.
So I looked up the 1989 edition entry for the word, and it's basically exactly the same. So I don't think this has been touched since the late 80s.
Okay.
And the most recent part of that is part of the reason I think that is the most recent citation in any of the senses that the OED lists is 1973.
Okay.
Despite there being 6 citations between 69 and 73. So I think it's probably is due for an update. If it is, and there are any OED lexicographers listening, feel free to get in touch. I will write my own transcript of this episode for you so that we can be cited.
Please don't say things like that, Ryan. If I thought there were any OED lexicographers listening to this, I'd probably never be able to make another episode ever again.
Fair enough.
The imposter syndrome would be terminal.
Wouldn't that be amazing? Yeah, that'd be too much. So working backwards, and as you said, as you rightly pointed out just now, that the way they order their senses is usually chronologically. So the third sense the OED lists, which is the most recent, it says, quote, and it's got a parenthetical note at the beginning saying, now with lowercase initial, like it's some sort of newfangled thing, a large heavy vehicle, specifically a heavy lorry. Yes. And so that's that one, right? So it's new. The earliest citation for this sense is 1841. It comes from a book by W.M. Thackeray called The Second Funeral of Napoleon.
Okay.
And the quote is, fancy then, the body landed at daybreak and transferred to the car, and fancy the car a huge juggernaut of a machine. And at this point in 1841, juggernaut is capitalized mid-sentence.
Right.
So if we continue our backwards journey, we get sense 2 in the OED, which is noted as figurative. And I don't know, I feel like this one now in the updated edition would say probably something along the lines of now rare or obsolete or something, because not that my familiarity with a word is the be-all and end-all of whether a word is obsolete or not, clearly.
Whoa, Ryan, you don't decide language?
What? As I've been told occasionally, no. But
shit.
But I talk a lot, and I read a fair bit. And
I know some words.
I know a few words, and if I've never in my life heard a usage, I kind of feel like it's probably at least rare, but maybe not. I don't know. But and also, given that we've established that this entry is probably no more recent than 89.
Yeah.
The citation range for this sense is from 1854 to 1883.
Yeah.
And this is where we get that, it's, quote, an institution, practice, or notion to which persons blindly devote themselves or are ruthlessly sacrificed. Also, juggernaut car in same sense.
Right.
So this narrow band of like 30 years in the middle of the 1800s, this was apparently quite a popular use of juggernaut. And in this one, they're all capitalized. And here we got to the thing that made me immediately interested in this in the first place, And just, again, going back to quote unquote process, I have found deep joy in the fact that the new online OED includes these like word list articles where they just gather a bunch of words handily by theme together for you.
Yeah.
And I actually found this. I went to the word list for words from textiles because that's how riveting my life is. And
listen, don't be knocking the textile words. There's a lot of super cool textile words.
They are pretty good. And I looked up jeans, like jean is in I was going to say jean is in denim, but they're both
not
those
the
are
thing.
Both not the same, used the same now. Both of them are named after places, completely different places in completely different languages.
Yeah. There's an episode.
There's a whole bunch of stuff we could do there. But real quick, because I hate it when people make allusions and then just smugly move on. Jeans is from Genoa, and denim is denim in Nîmes in France.
I love when people smugly make allusions and then move on. When I'm the smug person.
Well, fair enough. Yes, if I'm in the in group.
Thank you for disabusing me of that notion. It's not cool. It's not big. It's not clever. Bad. No. Naughty. Okay, moving on.
So, here is the first/oldest sense the OED lists. Here we go. Quote: Hindu mythology. A title of Krishna, the eighth avatar of Vishnu, specifically the effigy of this deity at Puri in Odisha, annually dragged in procession on an enormous car, under the wheels of which many devotees are said to have formerly thrown themselves to be crushed. Also
Yay!
attributive.
This is the one that I knew.
Okay,
Woo!
It is the one you knew.
Excited.
So I did not know this, and I was my gaster was flabbered, or my flabber was gasted. One of the two.
I was aware of the huge Hindu vehicle that people would throw themselves in front of. I was not aware that the figurative sense of so devoted to a cause that you would kill yourself for it had kind of transferred into the meaning of the word. I was thinking more literally.
Yeah,
but
so
it's very interesting that OED doesn't.
Yeah, and so now there's a couple. The OED has a note here that points out that the earliest citation for this sense is dated 1638, but it notes that, quote, the first European account of the Juggernaut festival and its attendant immolations is that by Friar Odoric, circa 1321.
Yeah. Just because a white dude didn't write it down doesn't mean it wasn't true.
Correct. And yeah, it was clearly being done for a lot longer than 1321 as well. So now we have the whole overview. What was sort of interesting to me is that there's an element of a large moving thing on wheels that did stick around, and we get the Juggernaut lorries and stuff with that. The sort of more enduring element of it was the concept of like people being crushed under the wheels.
Yeah.
And whether that's in the thing requiring intense devotion and unthinking sacrifice sense, or the apparently too modern for this edition of the OED, irresistible force, unstoppable object sense.
Yeah. And it's what's interesting here is that, you know, we've spoken about this before when you look up a word and there are several definitions. Now, I'm not talking about the crazy journey of mail where they all mean completely different things.
Right.
But, you know, often you'll be like, oh, there are two different senses given here, but they're so very close that it almost seems like, you know, it's almost like we need the ghosts of Smith to wander in and discriminate them. You're like, did it really need two different senses? But here, it's almost the opposite of that.
Yeah. So but what's interesting to me, what struck me about this is that the more I thought about this, the more skeptical I became about that element of this
Okay.
because I went casting around because I was like, that's a wild story. I'd love to know more about this festival and what was going on here, and like,
yeah,
what's happening in general. So I looked around, but specifically at this concept of devotees hurling themselves beneath the wheels of this, because self-sacrifice in this kind of ritualistic way is obviously not new or unique to anybody.
Yeah.
Or anywhere or anywhen. It's a thing that just has always happened everywhere. But I'm always immediately and slightly skeptical when I read a description of, and this is irrespective of the individual players here, but a description of one religious practice written or recorded or given by an adherent of a different religion entirely.
Yeah.
Because people are competitive and liars. So...
Also, dude, let's face it. When you go to church that's not your church, everything seems crazy.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes even within, like, I was raised Catholic, but I also started playing the organ, and I've played the organ everywhere, pretty much. Like, every denomination of Christianity I can think of, I have at one point or another, like, certainly in this part of the world, there's obviously, there are lots of denominations of Christianity, but
right.
In Scotland, the sort of general representation of Christianity, I've been to a lot of churches where they do a lot of things. And even though I'm like, technically we're all on the same team here, this is nuts.
Yeah, exactly. So I was looking around for any kind of corroboration of that self-sacrificial element of this festival. And the closest thing I could find to confirmation of it was that there were reports and statements from various sides that talked about it stressing that it was in the past. You know what I mean? Like, that doesn't happen anymore.
Okay.
And it's now discouraged and now almost never happens. But
we never do that kind of thing anymore on the 24th of April every year.
Yeah. But even the earlier, even that initial definition, and from 1638, and the definition are said to have formerly thrown themselves under to be crushed. Like, that's two different layers of. People say it used to happen that, like, that's a couple different degrees of separation from this happens.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, sure. And
that always also raises I put a little mental tick beside that bit, because I'm like, really? So that's kind of what I was looking into. And I couldn't find, anyway, long story short, I couldn't find anything that specifically denied it. I have questions about, India, as far as I know, the populous areas of India have never been what you'd call sparsely populated, I don't think. So when you picture...
I don't know a great deal about this, but I feel like in cities, it's not really... You have to have a lot of money to have a lot of space.
Yes, exactly. So when you think of large-scale festivals, and whether they're like massive millions of people or just the thing that everyone in the village and surrounding area is at for vehemently devotive reasons.
I've seen Indian trains, dude.
Right. In general, those things are crowded. And so when you combine those with gigantic, heavy, hulking parade floats featuring enormous effigies of gods, bad things could happen, Like, so people just may have been killed by accident, and someone watching being like, those people are weird. They're throwing themselves into the thing.
It's what they would have wanted, to sacrifice themselves for their god.
Or a handful of people.
Such devotion.
Yeah, or a handful of people may do it on purpose, but they might have done it on the one day in 1321 that Friar Odoric was there. And now everyone's like, great, now we're associated with these nutters. Like, what's going on?
Cheers, Odoric.
Yeah. Dude, you have to come back next year. This never happens like this. Like, please come back next year so you can write another one in 1322 about how normal all of this all is. It's a parade. my man. Come on. But maybe it did, because like I say, you do not have to exactly exhaust yourself trying to find examples of self-flagellation or self-immolation in terms of religious devotions and stuff like that. So who knows? But it was interesting to me that what I consider to be the least reliable part of the description of this festival is the bit that has stuck, you know?
Yeah, it's that's the only thing that's giving us the unstoppable force sense.
Right.
That transferred both into the vehicle part transfers into the lorries, but like unstoppable force is there. I mean, I don't know anything about Hindu gods. Even though I was a yoga teacher, oh my God, a white woman who doesn't know something about a culture that she thought she knew about. Who would have ever thought that was a thing? I don't know. I don't know enough about the incarnations of Shiva. You know, the Juggernaut. That may be where the unstoppable force comes from. Is what I'm trying to say. But yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah.
If you'd said to me, "What's a Juggernaut?" I would have smugly flexed my capital letter, I know it has a capital letter and I know why, muscles. But I would almost definitely have used the words unstoppable force.
Right. Yeah. And there's no indication that was actually true. So that's interesting. In terms of etymology beyond this, and I rarely do this because now I'm getting into Hindi and Sanskrit etymology, which is I only barely do English etymology, and now I'm in this territory. So, but
isn't it spicy though? Isn't it exciting when you find yourself in that? You're like, whoa, I don't even speak Spanish.
It is, yeah, exactly. So, Etymonline states that the Hindi word Juggernaut is from the Sanskrit Jagat, Jagat, meaning the world, men and beasts, literally the moving or all that moves, which is the present participle of Jagati, he goes, from a Pi root, transliterated as GWA, to go or come, plus Nata, meaning lord or master. From Natate, he helps, protects, from the Pi root Na, to help. So the protector and lord of the world, master or lord of the world, is Juggernaut. Is that Sanskrit compound word in Hindi.
That's very cool.
The Na, to help, was one of these ones where Etymonline says it's a Pi root. The American Heritage Dictionary Indo-European Roots Index didn't have it listed. Picorni at Austin did, but only references Juggernaut in that Na Pi root to help. So I don't know. The other one though, the GWA, to go / come. I haven't done a Proto-Indo-European deep dive in a bit, so I went to the American Heritage Dictionary's Appendix of Indo-European Roots, looked up Gua, and discovered a number of very cool distant relations of Juggernaut through that side of its family tree, which includes welcome, adventure, souvenir, acrobat, and diabetes.
What the what?
Which I thought was a great list.
I love this shit.
So welcome, any of those, any obviously come, like, or, you know, come or go, those things. Adventure, because the Gua was sort of, there's a whole branch that all those convention, adventure.
Right. All the ventions. All the Massachusetts ventions.
Right. Souvenir, same thing, the veneer.
Got you.
Souvenir. And then there's another branch where the bat from acrobat, as in someone who comes or goes through the air, an acrobat. Comes and goes up high. And then diabetes. And for a very split second, I was ready to move on from, and just like, diabetes, that's weird. Anyway, the rest of my day is here. Let's, whatever.
Ryan, that's not who you are.
It's not. So I'm not done yet. So I went to Etymonline for diabetes because, like, no, I have to know because it's going to bug me. So then I had to take a brief detour because I found a thing in there that I thought you would enjoy, and it's medical, and you enjoy medical stuff.
Oh, I do.
So it seems that diabetes in the 1560s was, quote, the medical name for a set of affections characterized by abnormal discharge of urine.
Okay.
So there were a bunch of different diabetes in the 1500s. And they were all indicated by various, I was about to say flavors. Let's go varieties of urine.
Let's definitely go varieties.
Absolutely going varieties. Oh boy. The word comes from
all the piss flavors. All the piss flavors.
all of them. The word comes from a Greek word that's a compound of that go, walk, step, and the word through. So literally a pass or through.
Right. So like diametric or diagonal. Yeah.
Exactly. So it says, there's a note there that says, in classical Greek, diabeinin meant to stand or walk with the legs apart, and diabetes meant a drafting compass from the position of the legs.
Oh my God.
Right?
That's amazing.
So a drafting, and then as soon as I read it in that context, of course, diabetes, it sounds like that awesome thing where you can just like Popsicles and Articles and Bicycles, where you just pronounce things like ancient Greek heroes.
Chipotle.
Chipotles. So in that context, yeah, of course, as soon as you say diabetes and you've just talked about classical Greek, it's like, well, yeah, duh. But it also notes that the sort of affliction that we now, I think, exclusively tie the word diabetes to was called diabetes mellitus.
That's right.
The
honey
old
diabetes.
Say again?
Honey.
Well,
as in mellifluous.
Well, so that's interesting because that's really interesting. I might have to look that up later and come back to it, because yes, it's obviously because it's related to the way bodies process sugars.
Uh-huh.
This suggested that there might have been, somewhere along the way, there might have been a weird hop, skip, and a jump from mellitus from malevolent or something, because apparently the old common name for the affliction was pissing evil.
Oh.
Which I thought...
Oh, now that's very interesting.
But it wasn't until you just said that and said the mellifluous, honey, sweet, saccharine connection
Maybe I've made an assumption there, and that is...
You might have. I just thought you'd enjoy the phrase pissing evil as a name for a disease, because English used to be a much more earthy language before Latin came in and made us all complicated and hoity-toity.
Pissing evil and buttock mail. Like, I'd totally go to that festival.
We're on a roll. This guy's open for buttock mail.
Interesting.
We are on a roll with that stuff today.
Diabetes UK says the scientific names for the different conditions. Where have I gotten to? Oh, for fuck's sake, it was right there. Yeah, the scientific names for the different conditions demonstrate this key difference. Mellitus is a Latin word that means sweet, as the urine of someone with diabetes has a sweet smell.
Yeah.
In contrast, the word insipidus, there's another type, diabetes insipidus, means flavourless, as the person's urine is colourless and odourless, and presumably flavourless, which is I mean, it was kind of a slightly humorous slip when you said I'm not going to use flavours, but...
yeah, apparently it's not just... yeah.
Yeah, we might need to move on from pissing evil.
We might need to. Anyway, so that's where Juggernaut comes from.
Super cool.
Huh.
You know how I've only read 7 books in my entire life, and I just talk about them over and over and over again.
But boy, have you read them.
Boy, have I read them. The reason that I know about the word, the reason that I knew a bit about the etymology of the word Juggernaut, the meaning of the word Juggernaut, is because of The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Right.
Where the first kind of introduction that we get to Hyde and his unspeakable evil is that he runs over a little girl, he tramples over a little girl.
Yes.
And he's described, he does it like some damned juggernaut. And
see, when I read that, I was like, it didn't even register to me, because it was just like, it was, oh, this unstoppable force that just goes on. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. But the sense of, it's a large destructive wagon in Hindu tradition emphasises Hyde's lack of mercy and the forceful, brutal nature of his actions. Which I guess, like if you ran over a little girl with a lorry, the lorry wouldn't even notice.
Correct.
I mean the lorry driver, of course. But yeah, the unstoppable, overwhelming force is what's used in that same description. So, yeah. That's very interesting.
It's like the bit from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy where the person asks Arthur Dent if he has any idea how much damage the bulldozer would suffer if he allowed it to roll right over Arthur Dent. And Dent goes, no, how much? And he says, absolutely none whatsoever.
Absolutely none. Yeah.
So Juggernaut, Blackmail, or Blackmail Juggernaut, I think.
I'd go and see them.
Absolutely.
And that's it for another episode of Lexitecture. To get in touch with us about something you heard this episode, you can email us at words@lexitecture.com. You can also follow along and talk to us at Lexitecture on Facebook and Twitter, and at Lexitecture Podcast on Instagram. For back episodes and the occasional blog post, visit us at Lexitecture.com. Thanks very much, and we'll talk to you again soon.